Futurama Comic, Issue 37. The Planet Express ship is getting sucked towards a magical living planet because Fry was supposed to make sure the planet's food was secure and played Tetris instead. And Bender left the airlock open, so all of the food is flying out. I can't help but find it stilted that she's reiterating all this stuff that they already know just to fill the audience in. Why would anyone make a living planet anyways? The planet would be so bored. It would be so cruel to the planet. She wants to throw some food in the other direction to distract the magical planet that doesn't do anything useful. And Bender is told to throw giant snacks so they can escape. This is at least entertaining because it's so silly. Fry apologizes, and then agreed to pick up hitchhikers that threaten them with the ray gun. Bender can somehow fit all of his criminal record on one piece of paper to brag about it. They're not robbing them though. Good! That'd be too predictable. They're aliens for the ethical treatment of mammals, and they found out online that Leela and Fry have been forced to work too hard. I don't really think they're overworked, it's just that their lives are too dangerous. Fry's relatably happy that someone finally read his blog. So Leela and Fry are told to come with them to a distant world, and Leela complains that they stranded them at gunpoint on an unknown planet. Leela says it's peaceful on the farm. Fry says they even have farm equipment, even though they weren't even taught how to use it. So he thinks this could be fun, but it's obvious they'll hate it. Out of nowhere, the tractor throws them off bits, revealing itself to be a transformer, and the two of them get chased by transformers who call them pests. This is a great way to make fun of PETA. Show what it's like from the liberated animals' perspective, who always die because they're released in the wrong places. Farnsworth's mad at Bender because he couldn't prevent the kidnapping of his crew, even though he's only one person, and suspends him. And he's right when he says, "You're mad that you only have 1/3 of a crew, so you're getting rid of that too?" Nice human logic. After a pun, Fry and Leela hide in a hole and get greeted by another human, who wishes that the Liberators had stuck around and researched the place first. And it turns out her leader is Zap, of all people, who lampshades how lucky he was to see Leela again. He looks unsympathetic when he says that the escape attempt he planned killed everyone here other than him and her. And of course his plan to repopulate the planet and attack with his children is turned down. It's obvious what it's only an excuse for, because he'd know it would take a lot more than 9 months, and he doesn't have that kind of time. A purple Tanny Tim tells Bender he wanted to hang out with him all day today, and he was being sarcastic. And he explains that the Space Scouts kicked him out because he was too depressing. Robots can be repaired and improved from anything, so there's no reason he would have to be so depressing. I know it's intentionally cute to get money, but there's no reason he would actually need a crutch. He would do it on purpose to get money, but he wouldn't keep the crutch around in the Space Scouts. He shows Bender that every scout buys an official space compass to know which way's north. Bender gets a crazy idea that if he reversed Earth's magnetic poles, they'd all need new compasses, and whoever was ready to sell the new ones would get rich. Naturally, since that's impossible for him, he goes to the person who can do the impossible. Farnsworth recklessly says he's got a giant magnet in the attic for some reason. And he's even gonna remove that annoying part of Bender's brain that makes him sing when he gets near a magnet. But he sings because his inhibition center isn't working. He can't remove a part of the brain to fix that. He has to upgrade a part of it. He tells him to also take out any painful childhood memories he could find. Why didn't he tell him to do that a lot earlier? He uses the machine and causes an explosion, and Hermes' belt and foil go over to him because he's a magnet. Even the fillings in Farnsworth's teeth have flown into the back of his mouth, which is a shame, but was funny anyways. Zap tells Fry they can hide in this barn while he plans their escape. And it turns out the barn's a robot too, who takes offense to the robots being stupid and says they have feelings, which was also pretty amusing. Predictably, Bender gets fired because he walked into the hangar and the ship went through the wall. Bender gets kicked out of the store because he can't get the malt liquor cans, and the robot women get sent to the ceiling away from him. This is an interesting subplot of his. I'm glad it's not about him getting a lot of stuff because of the magnet. Zap asks if Leela will tell him what's for dinner, and surprisingly, Fry says he wants pie, and he doubts that they could come up with a plan because they're women, even 1,000 years from now. And he says he has a plan instead. He sits on Fry's shoulders, and they walk towards the Transformer in a robot costume, being very suspicious because he keeps saying he's a giant robot. But that doesn't necessarily prove he's not one, it just means he's nervous, or self-conscious, or overly proud of how giant he is. He asks to borrow his spaceship to get back home. Then he's asked what his job is that brought him to a farm planet. He gets nervous and says he's a traveling sales bot. And he gets mad because the last one that came here turned his daughter into a tramp. Bender chases a quarter and loses it to a kid who wants to donate it, as if a mere quarter would make a difference. He is a kid, and he can't even use a suicide booth. And Amy at least tries to comfort him, though she's mad at him for the piercings that left her. Leela reveals that Pamela built an escape rocket out of plants because apparently she's a rocket scientist. Leela says that according to her calculations, they have too much combined weight to get out of orbit. She gives Zap a cinder block and tells him to run around for a day to lose weight. The funny thing is that Leela says the rocket's good for 2 more tons at least, and she was just getting back at Zap. She says she'll call Kip when they get back home and let him know where to find Zap. And she's right that losing a few pounds won't hurt him. Did the writer just misspell Kif? And why will Kif actually go back to save Zap? He was so desperate to leave him to die on another planet earlier. I guess he's gonna get the knowledge about where Zap is from a video phone in front of a bunch of other people, so he won't be able to feign ignorance and leave him there. Bender says his plan is to use a homemade wooden catapult to fling himself into the sun, and is told that can't possibly work. And lucky for him, the rocket shows up just in time with Leela. And Hermes is a jerk who's gonna dock her pay for her missed days when clearly they weren't her fault. If this series was being realistic, Hermes and Farnsworth would have been put in jail. Instead, they barely even get slapstick to make up for being around. Bender decides to steal the rocket to go to the sun, but since it's only good for one ride, it explodes and he's sent to the floor. And somehow the explosion cured him. After he steals from that same kid from earlier who coincidentally came all the way here, he thankfully says he'll make it up to him, only to show him how to make a fire to make a phony fire insurance claim. Futurama comic, issue 38. Predictably, when Leela gives out orders, she's ignored, and they only saluted her because they had a bet to see who could be the best crew member the longest. But it got boring, so he's going back to playing Sonic. Leela's sick of the lack of respect, and Fry says it's hard to take her seriously because she's his friend. He's told to hit the autopilot button, but doesn't because she said she'd trust him to drive the ship to earn points on his learner's permit. Because of Fry, the ship starts crashing into a planet, and Bender somehow decides a lead parachute is a good idea and crashes, as the others use real parachutes. Leela can't even send out an SOS because an alien cyborg breaks it, and she kicks it, saving some villagers who are still on dial-up. Conveniently, a prophecy said a great hero would fall from the sky and lead them to a golden age. And somehow they're accepting her as their new queen instead, when it said she'd be a smart starfish. It's interesting to see a jungle world have cyborgs and robots in it. That's the last place you'd expect to see them in. Fry hallucinates the Microsoft paperclip from heat and exhaustion. Sure, it's convenient that it tells him it's a hallucination. He cries at seeing Bender and carries him away. Leela tells the villagers she got rid of the Firefox in a sadly off-screen moment, and the villager gives her an outfit from the leopard she defeated. She naturally says it's morbid and gets told they recycle everything, which she approves of. Fry finds Bender's stuff and decides to follow it and thinks the villagers are the ones who hollowed him out. He bets that some of Bender is stealing the robot parts, and the box of them breaks from the bottom, waking them up, so they bang on drums with their cell phones to call for help. Why wouldn't they use their hands instead of almost damaging their cell phones? Leela defeats another alien and gets greeted by the king of the lost world over the mountains and is told that this alien escaped from their petting zoo. He says he wants to find the right queen, she likes him already, and she tells him she's a queen. Fry goes into the cave and for once it realistically backfires on someone that they were talking out loud. Because Bender was hollowed out, he wears his pants as a suit so that the villagers get hurt punching and kicking him, which is realistic unlike in Sonic. And he attacks them and scares them into running for Leela. Fortunately, Fry goes up to her right away, and when she's told by some stranger that he went crazy and that's why he's wearing Bender, she somehow believes him and decides to fight Fry. Even though he just said to her a panel ago that he thinks one of the villagers is responsible. Fry gets kicked away and she doesn't say her feet hurt because she's hiding it. And somehow Fry can extend the arms and tie her up and retract the arms to send her away spinning, despite not having Bender's CPU. It's exciting to see them fight, but it's hard not to think about how forced it was to happen. She swings by on a vine grabbing him, and he finally calls her out on caring more about them than his friends. But to be fair, there's more of them than Fry, and neither Bender or Fry are good people. He takes her hairband and blinds her with her own hair, and he at least apologizes. He tells them off for expecting mercy after how they treated Bender, and finally Bender talks to him through a computer. They put his mind in this computer when he crashed, and they've got him doing spreadsheets. At least he's being useful. He can't steal from people this way. Still, Leela's mad at him. The villager has a good excuse, saying he needed Bender's parts because their computers are so slow that they can't even play solitaire. How are they surviving in the jungle before Leela? I guess they're all recent runaways from the village with that jungle king. The nerd agrees to put Bender back together and repairs their spaceship, which is pretty competent. He fortunately apologizes to them, and Fry and Leela are willing to forgive him, and Leela doesn't want to go home. She says that while all they do is use their computers to ship books and movies from a rainforest, so now we know what they do finally, they still listen to her and respect her as their leader. She should also say that it's safe here. Sure, she has to fight a leopard, but she easily dealt with it. It's far safer here than she is on missions for Farnsworth. Bender and Fry decide to stay here too. A giant machine tears down the trees, but instead of it being the jungle king we saw earlier, it's Mom again, who has white hair this time. She comes out of nowhere and tells the natives to get off the planet she just bought because she bought shares in the Amazon Forest Shipping Corporation. So she's clear-cutting the planet and turning it into a slaughter world for discount meat. The laws are pretty different on alien planets, that's for sure. You know, we could have seen them leave the planets because of the more realistic reason that Leela got jungle fever, and then they could go home and get a cure, which would make Farnsworth look good. Instead, Mom shows up and enslaves the villagers so they'll make sweat for her to force Leela to leave the place. Leela's happy because she had Bender put a camera on Mom's ship, recording her hitting her son. Wouldn't it be nice if she was prosecuted for this because of the video evidence, making it a cut and dry case? She says she also had Bender put all the animals she captured as queen in Mom's cargo hold and had Bender undo the lock. So Mom has to run away from the animals, which realistically would be fast enough to catch up to her and her kids right away. Somehow nobody realizes this, and Leela tells Fry to send a copy of this to TV for a new reality show about when animals attack Mom. Too bad the story ends there, because I'm still mad at her. Aren't people being lied to that Mom is bigger than she is because she wears a fat suit to look like a kindly old grandmother? This tape would completely destroy that image. But no, let's just ignore that in the next issue. This story is about Leela and Fry being forced by Not PETA to live on a dangerous planet full of Transformers that see them as pests on their farm. And eventually, after some amusing visual humor, they manage to escape in a plant rocket that one of the survivors built on her own in a short amount of time. Isn't there a good reason that rockets are made of the specific stuff they are? It's not even like it's bamboo. Those are some interesting alien plants. And Bender loses his job because he tries to reverse the world's poles to make money off new compasses and somehow screws up doing that, somehow, and becomes a reverse magnet who causes everyone himself trouble. Just for an explosion to cure him. This story was about Leela's ship crashing on a planet because of Fry ignoring it. When he insists on flying, it's because he wants to get his learner's permit. So Leela becomes the queen of a village of techies that are busy shipping stuff to people for Amazon. Because they need her protection from the animals. Who knows why they survived this long without her though. Bender ended up hollowed out for computer parts and put in one of the villagers' computers. And Fry followed the trail of his stuff to eventually get to him, leading to an exciting fight with Leela with a bunch of different things happening because she thought he went crazy from the heat for wearing Bender's parts, just taking someone's word for it, when Fry told her otherwise, and he wouldn't know how to do that. But still, they fight, despite being longtime friends, with Fry having a clever idea to blind her with her own hair. And eventually they find Bender, and their ship gets repaired by the villagers. So the story just has to end with Mom coming out of nowhere to take over the planet and ruin everything, even though she lives on Earth. So good thing Leela had Bender send some animals after her. But we barely see any of that. It's too over the top anyways, because realistically the animals would have immediately caught up with her and killed her. It doesn't change the fact that she already gave the order to clear-cut the planet. And we're probably gonna see her in later issues anyways. It was a twist ending, but I hate this character so much that I'd rather someone in the jungle just get sick and have to go home, because that'd be more naturally built up to after Fry already hallucinated from the heat. But it was an engaging story.